Hello, I am Beth Ann Kamenko, and I'm the CEO of Geometry, the world's leading creative commerce agency, working with cool brands like Colgate, Unilever, Nike, Twitter, and of course, Hampton Water. And I am very pleased to be with you on WPPTV today, introducing first Mark Reed, the leader of the world's largest creative business, and also my boss.
You
And
don't
then
have to be nice, Beth Ann, don't worry.
Okay, I'll be hard when we get to the questions, Mark. And then I'd like to also, I'm very pleased, we both are, Mark and I, to welcome one of the world's greatest pop star icons, John Bon Jovi. And thank you, John, for being here with us.
Happy to be here, babe.
And I'm also really pleased to introduce new generation world leader, and my client, Jesse Bon Jovi.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Jesse, great to have you here. Okay, so to kick us off, I'm actually going to start with you. We have obviously assembled an overachieving group of talent here in all of your different domains. And so, Jesse, you had an incredible idea around Hampton Water. There's a great backstory to it, which maybe you can hint to as well. But what I really like to get into is like, what compelled you to go from idea into business, to actually make it a reality and just know that you had a big brand business idea on your hands?
Well, I don't know if just yet we have a big brand business just yet. We're certainly working at it every day. But you know, when we first came up with this concept, it was 4 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. But we were literally out in the Hamptons. We were drinking way more rosé than we probably should have been. And honestly, our mothers kind of started giving me and my college roommate a hard time. And we just said, no, don't worry about it. You know, we're not drinking tons of French wine. We're drinking Hampton water. And the joke was kind of born. And it just sort of snowballed from there. And so, you know, as the story goes, my dad, who's always been a big rosé drinker, it was basically all that was ever around the house, one late night offered me and my buddy a glass of pink juice. And we sort of started giving him a hard time and told him, no, you know, we're not drinking pink juice anymore. We're drinking Hampton water. And the light bulb went off. And basically 6 months later, we had come up with this concept of sharing the lifestyle of the Hamptons. And so we wanted to be more than just a rosé brand. We wanted to really come up with something that, if you'd never been to the Hamptons, that you had sort of this idea of the place while you were drinking, you know, Hampton water. And so we designed the label, we came up with the bottle design, and we came up with this whole lifestyle concept. And literally me and my buddy had just called everyone from liquor store owners to restaurant owners to wine importers to distributors, you know, put together this whole business plan and brought it back to my dad. And essentially it was just one of those things that we had put together so many pieces that it was like, okay, well now we just need a winemaker. And we were lucky enough to meet Gerard Bertrand and tell him the concept and partner with him. And yeah, we've had 3 90-point ratings since then and a spot on the top 100. We recently were awarded Wine Enthusiast Wine Star Awards. And so the critical acclaim has certainly been pretty spectacular, but I wouldn't know if I would call it a success just yet. You know, we got a lot of runway still ahead of us and we're still working incredibly hard at it every day.
You're certainly laying the foundation for success, and I want to get a little bit deeper into some of that story. So we'll come back to that. But Mark, over to you. You know, Jesse describes a very kind of instinct-driven approach to how we thought about building this brand and launching. It would be great to hear from you when you came into this role and you were thinking about WPP refresh strategy. You know, talk to us a little bit about that process and your approach that you took.
Yeah, I you know, look, I think I'm probably quite a long way down the rational end of the spectrum as business people go. But actually, I think the best strategies are quite instinctive processes. Sort of my favorite, I think Peter Drucker said, you know, a strategy is a sense of direction around which you improvise. And I think the WPP, we've been trying to set a sense of direction, and then we have to improvise around that. I mean, the best businesses today pivot, move, see opportunities, see where they are. And I think being flexible and agile are the best things, you know, the best things that you can have. And so, you know, I love the idea of Jesse, you know, just comes up with a business idea like that. I feel the same way. I think that I'd love people in WPP to have ideas. Look, and our business is an idea-driven business at the end of the day. That's why we exist, to do things that people get excited about, that capture people's imagination, an idea that crystallizes something. So I think instincts and instinct-driven businesses are often the best.
Yeah, I agree. And it starts to create also kind of an emotional energy for the organization too. You feel it at a different level, just like you do for a brand like Hampton Water. So John, speaking of sort of instinct and feeling, of course you were meant to go on tour, I think this summer, and instead we're here in quarantine, and immediately it seems like you pivoted and you moved fast to release a new song, Do What You Can. Can you talk to us a little bit about, just sort of what that was like for you, what inspired you, and what that process was like?
Well, I was meant to release the band's 17th album, which was called 2020. And it's a topical record. There's so much to write about these days. And it was completed and ready for release on May the 15th. When the pandemic hit, the record had already been finished and in the proverbial can. This pandemic hits, and I was at a place called the JBJ Soul Kitchen, which is one of our 3 restaurants where we serve an in-need customer and a paying customer, and created a model of community dining. But as I was washing dishes, and a position that I hold in great esteem, my wife snapped a picture, and she wanted the public to know that we were open for takeout. So she asked to put the picture up, and she said, "What do you think the caption should be?" And I said, "If you can't do what you do what you can." And I walked away not thinking anything of what I had just said. But as marketeers can appreciate, a fellow marketeer, hears that the next day and goes, "There's a bumper sticker, there's a song title." And so I started to write that song, and I had some fun with it. I'd written the song in its entirety, but I was also able to step back and realize that we as a planet were going through something together at the same time. So via the Zoom, the world of technology, I put it out there and said, "Write me a verse. Anybody who can come up with some poetry, some prose, send it. If I can get my hands on it, I'll try to put the melody to it, and we can all share this common experience." So it was fun to get that kind of input. And then I've recorded the song since with the band, the proper, the way I wrote it. And it'll be on the record, because how can you write a topical record and not include something about COVID and, in fact, the George Floyd incident? So,
So it was truly crowdsourced? You really were able to incorporate?
No, I mean, not in the final. Like I said, I had written the song, it's in entirety. Right. But with the public, I shared the chorus and the first verse to give them the melody and the idea, and said, let's crowdsource. Because the truth is I didn't really want 6,000 co-writers on the song.
How many replies did you get, John?
I don't honestly know, Mark. I was limited in my ability to search for them, but according to the ones that, my assistants found me on YouTube and Facebook and all of that stuff, there was literally thousands from around the globe. And I had the fun of taking a kindergarten class who submitted verses. And I Zoomed with the entire class and their families, and I sang back to 6-year-olds. Or I was in contact with people from Europe and the States and Australia. And so it was really a global communal effort.
Yeah, it was really fun reading it. I have to say, from the vantage point of someone who was just in the background reading. So Jesse, your dad truly has a kind of unique, very individual sort of creative energy. I'm just very curious what it must be like at home. Is this a competitive feeling a little bit, or is it, collaborative? And what is that? How does it work at home?
I would say that our family is very competitive. There has been many a game of Monopoly that didn't ever see the ending. But, especially with Hampton Water, it's been incredibly collaborative. We are constantly bouncing ideas off each other. we're literally all day long jumping on the phone and like, okay, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Because at the end of the day, yes, we have Gerard as a partner, and he's obviously been in the wine business for a long time, but we're sort of figuring this out as we go, and so we've obviously learned a ton in the last 4 years. We've I feel like we've taken the master's course in sales and logistics since we launched this thing, but we're constantly collaborating and constantly learning from each other and learning from the different situations we're in. So I would say it's definitely more of a collaborative effort than a competitive one.
You told me a funny story though, which I love, which, it talks sort of to, I think also, how your dad instilled certain things in you that at the end of the day, and it was like maybe one of the first weeks of being in quarantine, he came downstairs and said, "Here's what I did today, guys. What have you done?" That's
been my entire life.
Yes.
My dad is an avid runner, and he really likes to let me know about it at all times.
I love that. And I can relate to it. So, but go a little bit deeper into Hampton Water. So, here you're building a brand, you get to put the personality and the tonality and expression into it, but you're also doing something that's also incredibly challenging, which is you're bringing rosé to an American market. It's a global brand, but you've got an American consumer that's less familiar, has less habit around drinking rosé. So talk about that as well, how you kind of bring a energy forward in the brand and what it stands for, but also change consumer behavior at the same time.
For sure. Well, a big thing for us when we came up with this concept, we knew that the Hamptons was an aspirational place. And so, like I said earlier, even if you'd never been there, you saw whether it was Sex in the City or it was Billions or it was Summer House on Bravo, people have this idea of this place called the Hamptons. And so we knew that we had sort of a brand where people would look at that and potentially see it as something that was maybe too fancy or too snobby or, that wasn't accessible. And so it was really important to us to not only have that aspirational piece, but also have it be something that people wanted to take part in and that people didn't think was like, oh, we're saving that for company. We're saving that for a special event. It would be something that people could go and pick up a bottle and they were excited to share it with their friends. And so, I think that was something that really drove us from the very beginning. And, was something that we thought was really important because even if we didn't want it to just be the people on the east end of Long Island drinking this. We wanted this to be something that you could be in California, you could be in, San Francisco, you could be in Chicago, you could be, I always kind of joke and say you could be at your, above ground pool in Ohio. And if you got a bottle of Hampton water, you're living the Hampton life. And so, that was something that was really important to us, was to not only make it, accessible, but still have that kind of aspirational aspect of the brand.
Yeah, it's coming through. And we see that through a lot of the Instagram and other folks that we see adopting that, rosé behavior, but with Hampton Waters. So Mark, we work with a lot of great brands and you especially have a front row seat to these brands. What are some of the creative engagements and experiences that you see some of them putting forward right now that you particularly have, liked and sparked to?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there's this great brand, Hampton Water here. And actually, I'll tell you a funny story. So when Mike Feldman introduced me to John, we had a chat. And he said, I want you to talk to my son Jesse. We've got this brand, and the one thing we love is the label. The label is fantastic. We're never going to change the label. So we had the first meeting with Beth Ann and the team at Geometry, and the first slide said, "You need to change the label." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is not going to be a good meeting." We clearly did not listen to this client. So, but anyway, I think the label is much. But I think the last label was fantastic. I think the new label is even better. So, so clearly we did something. But more seriously, I mean, I think my favorite creative piece of work from the last few months is the work that Ogilvy did for Dove, that celebrates, frontline healthcare workers in masks. I think it's something that, only maybe Dove could do. And I think sort of tells a sort of universal truth about people and the sacrifice that those people make, and celebrates it, I think, in a really positive way. So, I think there's been good work. There's been, a fair amount of sort of generic work, but I'd say that's the piece that really stands out to me.
So John, going back to you in terms of the kind of the music making aspect of business, and then also where does that intersect with the business making? So you're a business entrepreneur now on many fronts. So I'm curious how you draw from the music making talent and bring that into these other spheres of business.
Well, if I've learned one thing from making records for nearly 40 years now, was that being true to who and what you are while you're evolving speaks your truth. And for that, people will either get on the ride, stay on the ride, join it along the way, but they know that they're buying truth. And so for me to stay true and not to jump on fads and fashions was very important. Even as we get into something like Hampton water, if I could add one thing to the conversation, we knew that in order to differentiate ourselves from a wide array of pink wine that's on the shelves and now becoming fashionable, we had to stand out. So we had an aspirational lifestyle, but what differentiates us is there's no S on the end of Hamptons. This is a fictional aspirational place. This belongs to the consumer, the person that's holding that bottle and the glass in their hands. And that is us solely. This isn't just Chateau, blah, blah, blah. This is our story. And we brought on a great winemaker in Gerard Bertrand, but the story stems from the place where I'm sitting on this porch in this house. And everything that we create has to tell that truth. And so that's what Jess and Ali are doing on a daily basis. And when you guys came in, I have to admit, I was guilty. I was the last guy that signed on to this label change. But I have to admit, I was wrong. And I'm so happy with everything that you did, Beth Ann, and the team did, because it is so much better. And it made us even look more premium. We were winning awards, but we wanted to stand out. And this just has helped us to stand out.
Well, thank you for saying that. No, it's been a dream brief, and obviously getting to work with you and Jesse and Ali has also been a bit of a dream for many of us, literally. So Jesse, though, in the process of working together, one of the things we do try to balance is the hardcore aspect of business. How do you make it a commercial success? And we have kind of that goal of getting to exponential growth, 10x kind of growth. And then you have a pandemic hit like this. So it's really challenged you, I know, and the business to think about direct to consumer models and delivery models in new ways and to experiment with some new things. It would be great for you to talk a little bit about that aspect of the business too. There's a lot we can learn from how quickly you all have moved to make sure that you're moving product.
Yeah. Initially when the whole world kind of turned upside down, there certainly was a couple of weeks of panic, and restaurants were closed all over the country. And a lot of that is our bread and butter. And obviously that's how you kind of get the word out about any alcohol brand is, people go into their favorite local watering hole and they get a glass or they get a bottle and then they go into the liquor store and buy it. So suddenly not having that advertisement was a bit of a concern for all of us. But, we knew that we had a very avid following on social media. We started seeing, people very quickly started just doing Instagram lives and not really having a purpose for it. And so we saw that. I remember within the first week, Miley Cyrus was doing an Instagram live and she was just talking to people and just saying, what are you guys doing? And so we said, you know what, we can give that a try. Let's see if we can figure something out. And the first one was literally, we just turned it on, and me and my dad were sitting on the couch, and we just chatted with people for like 35 minutes. And then by that Thursday, we were calling it the happy half hour. We were, having on guests. We had, everyone from lead singers of bands to actors to friends who were athletes, taking people through different workouts they could do at home. And I started baking on the show, which has been a bit of a catastrophe for the kitchens of the homes that I've been in. But, we basically just started coming up with different kind of fun things to not only keep ourselves entertained, but hopefully keep people watching entertained. And so that was a fun thing that we did, but then, like you said, at the end of the day, you got to sell a product. And so being quick to work with companies like wine.com and Wine on Sale and different online retailers, because in the wine business, we cannot sell direct to consumer, unlike a makeup brand or, a toothpaste or something like that can say, hey, swipe up on this link and it will have it to your door in 2 days. We can't do that. We got to send you to somebody else. And many times they're across the country. And so we had to really act fast to tell people, look, this is the closest thing near you, or go to your local liquor store, or, figure out all kinds of different ways to get the word out and to go and experience the wine while you're kind of locked at home. And I think it's been working.
I mean, I'm really impressed, Jesse. What really strikes me is you, like lots of business people, I mean, there's been just so much innovation over the last 3 months, and yet we're all sort of physically separate, but somehow we're all using this technology to stay connected in different ways. And this was the idea behind WPPTV. We roll this out, 3 or 4 hours a week. We have, a couple of thousand people that watch it all, and in Cannes, we're going to make it public. But it's just a great way of just connecting people inside the company who can't come into the office. And I love the way you've done the same thing. I think it's really fantastic and really impressive.
Yeah. We knew when this all started that if we were feeling sort of bored and alone and trapped at home, that it was happening all over the world. And
but I bet you'll carry on when this finishes, won't you?
Yes. I just did one last night. I made rosé ice cream, and we're doing it on Saturday. We're showing people how to throw a picnic. We are very much bought in on the Instagram Live thing, but just in general, trying to the idea of the brand has always been to bring people together, and so that's always been something that we've tried to do, and that we're going to continue to hopefully do.
You know what else is going to differentiate us this year is purpose. And we realized back in March what the great chef Jose Andres was doing with the World Central Kitchen.
Yeah.
So back in March, we implemented a nationwide plan to take $1 from every bottle of our rosé sold this year and give it to the World Central Kitchen. Not only are we feeding people, but we're giving people in restaurants jobs, and those are the same people who buy in for our wines. So we jumped on that very early on, and even our distributors, who typically stay at arm's length with a brand and those kinds of purposeful meaning campaigns, they jumped in on this, and they're not only financially supporting it, but emotionally they're really in there with us doing it. And in these trying times, you have to think outside the lines. So it's those kind of things. It's putting a face to the brand. It's not a celebrity-owned brand. It's a family-run business. It's an aspirational lifestyle. There's purpose behind it. And so for all those things, I think that's why what's outside of the bottle is as good as what's inside the bottle.
Well, on that note, John and Jesse, thank you for what you've given us. I can't get through a social distancing weekend. Cheers, Mark, without this in my hands. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working on the brand and working on the business.
And we'll continue. And we will continue. Thank you for everything that your whole team has done for us since inception.
Well, you guys have offered some gems of creativity today, so we really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks, John.
Bye.